You're listening to Lab Out Loud, Science for the Classroom and Beyond. I'm your co-host, Dale Basler.
And I'm Brian Bartel.
And, you might be actually watching Lab Out Loud. This is one of the very few Lab Out Loud episodes that has video, and it has to do with our guest today. Our guest had...
this is our first fully
exactly.
video podcast.
Our guest and you, because Brian did a kind of a screencast and some tutorial stuff, or just kind of showing off the work he's been doing in there. So we had video, and we thought this is going to be a video podcast, so we put it out there. But don't fear, audio listeners. You can still listen to this in the audio version. We try to describe things. We are always conscious of the audio listeners. So for starters, we are recording this side by side because we are actually at a conference right now. We are at South by Southwest EDU in Austin, Texas. And Brian is actually doing science. We're going to sessions. We're going to workshops.
We are definitely going to sessions.
And you're doing science experiments on the side here.
We got here the day earlier, and then we walked around, and all I could think about is these would be wonderful places to install a Solarcan if I had the time and I was coming back and things like that. But I did bring, I brought a puck and about like 8 exposures, and I also brought some painter's tape because I like painter's tape for this. And I put them on the window, and I am seeing what I'm getting. In fact, when I selected the room, I wanted specifically a south-facing room so I could see if I could get it. But we're in Texas, and so the angle of the sun is a little bit different. So I'm having to experiment a little bit, and that's actually a really good reason to get the puck too, because it gives you it's kind of like staging.
I think a lot of our listeners have no idea what we're talking about. And that's what we're going to get into for this episode.
So come back and listen to the
what is this field of photography?
Solarography or solar. Well, Sam talks about it a little bit. But we were fortunate enough to talk to the founder, the creator of the Solarcan, Sam Cornwell.
And he's going to be up next in the video. Brian's on video with him. My camera wasn't working, so this is the only video you get for me. But let's hear from Sam now.
So important.
Hello, Brian and Dale. Am I addressing you both? I think I am. My name is Sam Cornwell. I am living in the Scottish borders. I'm from the UK. And what do? I run a business called Solarcan. We create, invent, manufacture, sell, and distribute the world's simplest camera, which Brian knows a lot about, I believe.
Brian has been showing me these things all the time. And to be honest, at first, I'm just like, huh? What are you talking? I mean, he's been talking about it, but I didn't see the results. And I was just like, what is he talking about? I don't know what any of this is.
Well, I got interested in it about 2 years ago, and it was I think a Black Friday deal where I dipped my toes into the hobby a little bit, and I didn't exactly know what to do with it right away. And so it was all right, so let me think about where to install these and what to do with them. And once I really got going, I've been enjoying it a lot. Tell us a little bit about the products, because you have 2 main products out there, Sam. I'll have you describe them instead of, I'm not the expert on this. I've just been enjoying the fruits of your labors.
Well, I don't know about that, Brian. You're pretty good at this, but I'll give it my best shot. So we'll start with the Solarcan. That's the name of the company, the business, and our main core product. So a Solarcan looks like a drink. That's the first thing people see when they look at Solarcan, but it is absolutely not a drink. It just happens to look like one because it's in the same vessel as drinks come in. It has Solarcan printed on the side, and what it is, in fact, is a camera, the world's simplest camera, in fact. It's housed in an aluminium can, 400 ml, but inside it, there is photographic paper, and externally, there's a pinhole. It is mostly watertight, apart from the pinhole. And the way this would work is you'd install it outside, leave it for several months at a time. Optimal time is 6 months, when the sun rises from the lowest point in the sky to the highest point in the sky, solstice to solstice, and records the path of the sun over all that time. So effectively, you're taking an extreme time exposure photograph. Something like, if you are a photographer, in fact, something like 15 million seconds exposure time, which could be quite incredible. So that's the Solarcan. More recently, in the last couple of years, which Brian has alluded to, we've introduced something called the puck, which we can get into later, which is sort of supersedes Solarcan. What it is the core product, but it does practically the same thing, but there are some improvements all round, and it is a slightly different product, which has really supercharged the Solarcan brand and has been doing well for the last couple of years. So effectively, it's a camera. That's the first hurdle we've got to get over. A camera that takes very, very unusual pictures.
When did this all start?
Oh, gosh. Solography as an art form has been around for about...
I've been wanting to know how to pronounce that, so thank you.
Yeah. But there's lots of different ways to pronounce it. It's been around as an art form for about 25 years. It's been around as a scientific tool for recording sunlight for much, much longer than that. We could go into that later if I can get my brain fired up enough. But there was never a sort of commercial application of what solography was. It was a homemade thing where you'd use recycled equipment, recycled materials. You'd have your own darkroom perhaps, and you have your own photographic paper, and you put this stuff together to come up with a result. And to be able to achieve this sort of thing, you need to attend a workshop or understand what you do. So I came up with Solarcan around 2016 to be sort of an inexpensive one-stop shop, an idea so you can take part in solography without all the fiffing and faffing around that you'd have to do for that sort of thing. And so people could give it a go, give it a try, really. So direct answer to your question, 2016 was when I conceived the idea, but 2017, in April, we launched and succeeded with our first Kickstarter, which, well, it blew my mind away.
So Solarcan is what started off. Is that because it was what people had available, and then because you sell the can and the whole kit?
That's right. So yeah, it comes as a kit. It comes in a nice cardboard tube. I'm going to show the camera here if anyone's watching.
Okay.
So it comes like this in a nice cardboard tube.
Oh, look at that!
It's on the front of the Solarcan. That's housed inside this. So this doubles as a shipping tube, which is how we're able to ship all the way around the world. Inside there is a manual, cable ties to stick it up, and everything you need to know to make your own picture. There's no making or doing anything manual inside there. So it's all ready for you to create this and pop it out of your windowsill or tie it to your lamppost outside and let it start doing its work, recording the sun's path. So yeah, this was the thing that we launched on Kickstarter.
So I guess what I'm getting at though is like this must have been a passion of yours, and it just blossomed into the Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's right. So by trade, I've been a lot of different things: computer engineer, photographer, and astronomer. An artist. But at this time, I was sort of like darting around between being an astronomer, a photographer, an artist, and waiting for the career to present itself. And I was the sort of photographer who liked to experiment with things, try different mediums, try different types of cameras, try analog photography, as it's known these days, film, etc. And this was a style of photography that I always wanted to create and learn more about. So in 2016, I decided to start and make my own, and I made them look very nice. And I thought, these are so good, I'm gonna give them away as Christmas presents, even though they used really poor beer cans that had been recycled, etc. And all the people I gave them to as Christmas presents absolutely loved them. They thought they were fantastic. And then, being myself and who I was, I thought I could sell these. So I made a few more, and I put them on the website Etsy for sale. All recycled materials, made them look as nice as I can, etc. And guess how many I sold?
All of them.
None?
None. I sold none.
Oh,
Etsy.
Yeah, I
Seriously,
sold
Etsy.
absolutely none. I was so despondent with the whole thing. I thought this is fantastic though. Like, why is it not selling? So it's
is that because Etsy just isn't kind of science experimenty place?
No.
Mm.
It became a design product. It was a very difficult thing to sell because nobody knows what it is. So I set about making it look beautiful. So rather than using an old recycled beer can and stuff, I gave it a logo. I gave it a name. I made it look nice. I found a way to put the lids on it without gaffer taping a lid together, etc., or duct taping the lids, as you say over there.
Mhm.
And I turned it into
booklet too.
make it a booklet as well. So the instructions, which are all printed on the outside of a Solarcan, all these things that go into it, I made it look attractive and something that people would want to buy. And I set aside actually.
You had to update its dating profile, is what you had to do, right? Yeah.
A bit,
Oh,
yes.
I had to dress it up.
In today's language. I set aside £100 in a week to come up with a prototype. But this quickly got used up, and it actually took 4 months and about £5,000 to come up with the very first Solarcan that was ready to produce and promote. And there we are. Well, kind of the rest is history, but I launched it on Kickstarter, something I wanted to do for a long time, a crowdfunding event. I felt it was right for that. And I put a goal in to recoup half of my money back, all the money that I'd invested. And, overnight, it doubled that. And by the end of the campaign, we'd hit 10 times that. So it really, really did look nice. And it worked a lot better than Etsy, of course, because the product looked nice. And I've never gone back to Etsy since, actually.
Sure.
But I did find that a lot of people that were supporting me making the purchase, like half of them still weren't completely sure what they were purchasing. But it was an inexpensive product that produced something incredible, that was science-based and you could learn from. And I think they enjoyed my enthusiasm for it. So I think that's what got us to the stage where we are.
Well, I know Brian is probably itching to share some of his experiences, but I think before we go into that too, you described both the can and the puck, but I think not everybody understands how this camera works. I think these days you think camera maybe has film. They might remember that, but otherwise, of course, we have digital cameras. So can you describe just the components, the main components of both the puck and the can that make this work the way it does?
Yeah, of course I can. You've got to remember that it's the world's simplest camera. I'd be really happy for someone to come and challenge me on that and show me something that could be simpler. So we have what effectively looks like a drink. So you can imagine that it's silver in color. It says Solarcan on the side. Inside, there is almost nothing. There is a piece of paper that wraps around internally around that cylinder. And that piece of paper happens to be light sensitive. It's not film, so don't give a misconception that it's film inside. It's actually photographic paper, but it still is light sensitive. So if anyone's ever used a darkroom and created an image from a negative, they will be using photographic paper to do that sort of thing.
Okay.
So if you take photographic paper out into the sunlight, it will discolor very, very quickly. So photographers say, no, you can't do that. However, what if you were to control that discoloration? Using a pinhole on the side of the Solarcan, light can pass through that pinhole, and it can hit just a very small portion of that photographic paper inside, discoloring that part of photographic paper. So as the sun traverses through the sky, it will discolor slowly an arc, which is the sun's path, on the photographic paper. And if you leave that for several months at a time, that arc will change shape as the sun rises or falls through the sky in relation to where you are. And eventually you'll be able to open the Solarcan up, pull that bit of photographic paper out, as long as you're not in direct sunlight, and you'll see an image has been created on there, which is effectively controlled discoloration of that photographic paper that's in there. Does that make a bit more sense?
Yeah. So the pinhole is on the side of the can.
It is, yes, not the top or the bottom. Yeah,
okay.
On the side, yeah.
It's like you can actually see it in Sam's background. It's like on his right shoulder. There's like a little. You can see this little black tab under the A and the R.
Okay.
And that's covering up a little tiny pinhole. And when we get to the puck, we'll talk about that as well. But there's a little
puck
physics
I can
in there
see. There's a hole in the puck. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes, there's a puck on the other side.
Yeah, you can see the hole in that one.
Skip. Yeah.
It actually might help if I go through a little bit of the processing of an image, and that might help a little bit understanding what's going on. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show one of the images I just harvested, so to speak. Okay, Can you see that?
That's coming. Yes.
Very nice. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this is an image that I have in my backyard. I have a ravine in my backyard, so there's a little creek, and you'll actually be able to see some of that too. And I installed this in the summer and just harvested it right before the solstice, for the winter solstice. And there's a couple things that I want to bring to your attention. So first of all, you'll see these little light marks here, and these are the tabs that are holding in the paper basically into the can. And so I usually just kind of crop those out, but they're kind of fun little artifacts to look at. So the first thing is that you'll notice that this is the photographic image that comes out. And as you know, if you think about light sensitive paper here, the darkest images are where the light hits it the hardest. And then
so for our audio listeners, let me just describe this, since you know what it is, Brian. I'm seeing basically a screenshot of a rectangle or piece of, I guess, paper. It looks sort of pinkish, almost skin tone, but then there are these black arcs that are swooping across the section of the paper. There's a bunch of continuous series of black arcs, and they rise up. It looks like a stack of parabolas going on there. And you're describing those parabolas. Those are the sun?
That's the sun. That's the path of the sun. So the topmost parabola, we can't even see. I didn't have it angled the right way. That's going to be when the sun is highest in the sky. That's going to be the summer solstice. And the very lowest one is the winter solstice.
Oh, that's quite a difference.
Yeah, and to be fair, I harvested this, or I removed it right before the winter solstice. So it's actually not the lowest. It probably could have gone 2 or 3 more days. The reason is that I needed an image that I wanted to use one of my own images. I read a book about the solstice to an elementary classroom, and then I wanted to show them how we could actually measure that and how we could see that and visualize the sun that way. So I needed an image before the solstice, so I took this one out before the solstice.
So
don't worry, I put up a new
squares
one right before the solstice again. It's the same location.
The little white squares down on the bottom right and left. Is that what you're talking about? Was the clip, so that was covered up?
That's the clip, so that's where it's covered up, so no light was able to touch.
So that's what it would look like originally.
Came out of the can and scanned in. Now, you have to do a few things processing, and so this is an old. I have an old kind of use of this is an old Photoshop version, but it does it very well for what we're going to do. So first of all, I'm going to adjust the image, and I'm going to invert the image. And so basically the darkest part of the image is going to turn light, and vice versa. And so we can easily see now, this looks like something we would recognize in the real world.
It just instantly snapped from basically Mars to nighttime.
And I'm going to do a couple more things. I'm going to just, I'm going to change the color a little bit. I'm going to change the tone. I let some of the computer do this automatically. And I can adjust some of these pieces as necessary, but this will work for our purposes. I have to do one more thing because I forget this one often. I have to rotate the image horizontally, because the camera flips the image horizontally in terms of the way that.
Sure.
Yeah. It's again. There's the physics for it.
You flipped it over basically. You mirrored it almost.
Right. And so now this is a little bit easier to see. I could do a little bit more with changing. I changed the levels a little bit. Sometimes I like to increase the contrast, and some things jump out a little bit more.
One thing that jumps out for me is it's not just catching the sun. There's trees on there.
Yeah, it is. And the trees are moving too. So now there's a couple things that are kind of important here. This is in a little forested pocket in the city. And so it captured this in the summer and in the winter. And I really like doing some of this photography in the winter because there isn't the canopy to worry about. But you can actually see holes in the canopy. They're almost like ghosted images where like there's little light parts here. That's where the leaves were. And you can actually see the difference. Like the rays come out a little greener. And that's where they were covered up by the canopy in the summer. And then the yellow ones that's pretty full throttle sunlight coming.
Well, where's the color coming from? I thought it only just basically captures black and white.
Yeah, good question.
I'll let you tackle that one, Sam.
Yeah, sure. So you're very right, Dale. It's a good thing to pick up on because we use black and white photographic paper inside the Solarcan and the puck. And so intuitively, you'd think you get a black and white image, but it's only black and white if you use it in the traditional way where you develop with chemicals, developing agent, fixer, and stop bath, those sorts of things. However, if you take black and white photographic paper out of the darkroom, depending on the brand, depending on the type, it will change color. It won't go from white to black. It will go from white to pink, or white to purple, or white to dark blue. And that's where the color effectively comes from. So depending on how much sunlight is exposed onto it and how much the photographic paper is being ruined, for want of a better word, or exposed onto, it will change color. And that's where these colors are coming from. Because you'll remember the first image, the straight scan that Brian showed you, it was all pink.
Yes, it was kind of pinkish, yes.
But the part that was underneath the tabs that held it in place were white. White, which is what it starts out like. But once it starts getting a little bit of sunlight onto it, this photographic paper in particular turns slight pinkish, and then it changes color depending on how much light is exposed onto it. But can I just say, while we're looking at this is fascinating image, Brian. Really fascinating.
Thank you.
What's the
this is in my backyard. There's a couple other things that kind of jump out here. One of them, you can see this little, like almost like a little rainbow spot here in the lower right-hand corner.
Yes, I see it.
There's a little creek that runs through. This is the reflection off of the water from that little creek.
What is down on the bottom right-hand side, kind of a third of the way from the bottom? There's like, it looks like a reflection or a lens flare.
That's what it is.
That's
the creek.
Oh, your pointer's in a different spot.
Yes, yes. Okay. Brian's pointer's slightly out the way.
Move your pointer to the right.
Farther.
A lot farther.
Well, mine's right on the color, so we must be getting a little.
Oh, so this is a weird kind of screencasty thing. So you're talking about that. Yeah, so
there's like a little rainbow effect in the lower portion.
Yeah, it almost looks like cobblestone kind of reflecty things. Yep. Okay.
This is the reflection off of the water in the creek.
Yeah, your pointer's on it now, which is weird.
It's way off the screen right now.
That must be a weird
All right,
Skype
so
artifact.
I won't point anymore. The other part that you can see in a little bit right above the yellow parabolas, there's a big break.
Yeah, why is that?
We had an exceptionally rainy rainy week in the fall. Like this is around September, early October, where we had a significant, like, dreary week. And you can see little breaks where the sun tried to peek through. And, that's what happens when you're capturing this sometimes.
Yeah, I see. It's bright, and this big gap. For a split second, I thought daylight savings time, but saving time. But then I realized how dumb that was.
So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for all of our audio listeners. Sorry about that.
I think we described it. That's wild. So where do you have these pieces of paper now?
Well, I wanted to ask Sam, what do we do with right now I still have them in my I put them back into the Solarcan. I'm storing them
sharing screen, by the way.
Yep. Hang on a second. Confirm stop sharing. Okay. So I actually have some.
If you take it out, is it going to ruin it?
No, not immediately. You can kind of see. There we go. So these are some of the pucks. And then this would have been like the original image.
Oh, that's what you just showed. Okay.
That's what I just showed. So if I don't keep exposing it, it should be fine for a while, right?
Absolutely, as long as you're away from direct sunlight. Yeah.
So save the cardboard container.
That's the point. Okay, so how do you scan it? Like, are you using a flatbed scanner, or are you just taking a picture of it?
So I have done both because if I'm not at home with a scanner, I have done it with. It'll be harder to do with the actual Solarcan because it's curled, and so the flatbed scanner is really important for that part of it, just because it kind of flattens that image out. For the pucks, they're pretty flat, so I have used my camera as kind of like to get a preview of it. But again, you kind of risk having it exposed more to the light if you're not careful. And so,
but doesn't a scanner have that big light bar that comes by?
Yeah, it does. So as the directions say, be careful of how many times you scan.
Because it's like an X-ray dose. Like, just do this once.
I would say that's probably that's fair.
I'll interject. It's really easy to forget how bright the sun is.
Well, that's fair.
You can stare at your scanner light all day long, and it's really not going to hurt your eyes. But you know, 2 seconds looking at the sun, and you're going to feel that pain. The scanner light, although it's bright and continuous scanning, would slowly degrade that image. But you know, once or twice, it's going to cause absolutely no problems. Just as long as you're in away from direct sunlight. Yeah.
Even if I looked at the sun through a pinhole, I'm still gonna have. It's still good. Still leave a nice pinhole in my view for a while. Okay.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to share one more real quickly because I think this helps to answer your question, Dale.
He's been, by the way, doing this for months and months.
Yeah. And here is a scan that I did this summer, and you can see like the white of the flatbed behind it. And then this was over the summer solstice, and I had a Solarcan up for a week, just for straight a week, and so it got some interesting kind of effects there. But then I would crop it, I'd adjust it. In this case, I have to physically kind of adjust the angle of it with Photoshop. So there's a bit of processing.
Yeah. Now, what if people don't have Photoshop? Is there a free version or something that can help people make these adjustments?
Yes.
I know you have ancient Photoshop, but it still works.
Yeah, no, we recommend in the booklet, if you don't have Photoshop or Lightroom or any typical photo processing software, you can use GIMP, GIMP, as a graphic image manipulation software. I can't remember what the term is. Or if you're using your phone, because you could always scan on a computer and then transfer to your phone, there's a really handy app. I think it's owned by Google, called Snapseed, which is something you can use on your phone to do some editing. But anyway, there's any number of apps where you can do this sort of thing. But those are the two we recommend if you don't want to purchase some software or don't have access. And even so, we have never shied away from processing people's photographs. If they send in a decent scan, we'll do the job for them.
Neat.
Doing it. I do enjoy doing it.
It's kind of like
I've done it on the phone, and it works just fine for just kind of playing around with it. And a lot of the software on the phone, you can do pretty decently.
This must be super rewarding when you first get it out of the can. You're like, oh, I know, like the excitement between seeing it unprocessed and then what is revealed after the processing. I would guess that those are big, like, aha moments.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a couple of things in there that are kind of nice to do. As I mentioned, I talked to an elementary class about this, a second grade class, and just the knowledge that they had no background in what photography was in the past. and even the teacher who was born in, after 2000,
Sure.
her world has been digital cameras forever. And so it was kind of a moment to discuss what photography is. And especially in a world where AI is adjusting everything, this was kind of a nice moment to talk about what photography, where it started. And the other point is that, we're going to talk about the puck in a second. The puck was really my on-ramp into this hobby. And so the puck is designed for shorter exposures. And so there's a faster gratification than the actual Solarcan, because the Solarcan, you're usually waiting weeks and months for the results, but the puck you can get in a day.
Oh, so what's different about the puck? I see it's considerably smaller, but what makes it better for shorter?
Yeah, I'll talk about this if you like.
You bet.
So I've been playing around with this idea for a couple of years. I didn't have a name for it. It was like a tin, basically, but I thought that's not good enough name. The solar tin, that's no good. And we were approaching Black Friday a couple of years ago, and I was driving along in my car. I had this unit next to me down to the left, and I just didn't have a name for it. And I felt that we couldn't go live with this unless we had a name, and we couldn't launch anything on Black Friday unless we had a name. And I started asking myself the shape of it. Well, it's round, it's circle, it looks a bit like a hockey puck. And the second I said that in my head, it stuck immediately like hard glue. And I thought, well, that's a funny name. That's a name that, will travel very, very easily. People understand what it means, and people can make puns all day long with that sort of name. So,
that's right. You have a T-shirt, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went home and I mocked up a design for a label for the front. And the idea was actually, I didn't want to cannibalize the Solarcan sales, because I love what Solarcan is. So I launched this puck on Black Friday, just a little launch on social media to tell everyone, look, if you buy 2 Solarcan, you'll get this free Solarcan puck. There's a little silver thing back then. And I thought, yeah, we'll probably make a dozen, half a dozen, 2 dozen or something at most, just for this Black Friday sales. And oh my good grief. It went viral. Every single photography site that you could imagine picked it up and shared it and made this really big, exciting thing. And it was terrifying. I suddenly had to turn this like little thing that I'd be able to make by hand, just, a handful of them over a couple of evenings in my workshop, into where I'd have to make several hundred in time for Christmas. And because it had gone viral and everyone had talked about it, I couldn't send it out sort of, I don't want to say half-baked, but it had to be really, really professional and really nice, sending out as professional as I could make it without all the time for the design elements that would go into it. So I crammed for an entire week to get it to the stage where it looked nice, with a little circular manual that went inside the puck, and we could arrange things, etc. It's a lot of hard work to get there, but we did. And once it was done, they're all out. I said to myself, that's it. No more of these. That's it. That's the last puck I'm ever making. That was good fun, but Solarcan is our product. And then I went away on holiday to Lanzarote for a week, and I thought, I'll take a puck with me. I'll take one of these pucks that I made everyone because I had a spare. I'll take it and see how it is. And it was so much fun. It was really, really fun. The fact that I could do single day exposures with it, and the images were just fantastic. And then I was seeing images come through from people like Brian. And I just got back and I said to my workshop manager here, Gemma, I said, we're going to have to make this a product, because it is too good not to. I said we couldn't do it, but it's just too good. I've used it myself now and I absolutely love it. And that's really how that was born. And and then I spent several months making it look how it does today, the black version, and it's the embossed logo that's on it, etc., and everything else that goes on top of that.
And it's almost like, first of all, it's reusable. The regular Solarcan, you have to basically destroy to get you do have to destroy to get,
because you got to cut it out of there.
you have to cut it out of there. But the puck has it's like a twist up. It's like a mint tin, like an Altoids tin almost, and that
It looks like
you
a
twist
chewing
it off,
tobacco
and
tin.
you can reuse it and put new paper in it and install it somewhere else the next day.
Yeah, that's right. There were a lot of challenges. So the first ones that went out, these beta pucks, I guess, that Brian was lucky enough to get hold of early on. Everyone was testing them, basically. I could only test it so much. Everyone was testing them, sending me back results. And I was thinking, how can we improve this to make it, a full-on product that could carry on? So we came up with this, I feel, almost ingenious idea of this. Do you remember the Live Strong bands that everyone used to wear around their wrists? But we repurposed one of those with grooves on the inside and letters on the outside. So it would go around the externally to this puck, and it would create it essentially watertight, because water would have been able to get in through the grooves of any tin, as you can imagine. So that was the one thing. And then ways that we could get this attached to street furniture, etc., and also the packaging addition on top of that, and the color that this thing was going to be. Was it going to be black or a different color, etc.? But we did get there in the end, and and this surprised us even more than the Solarcan did. In fact, it was a very, very exceptional launch back in, when was it, Brian? 2000.
It was 2 years ago. So that's when I got on board with that beta puck, and mine's a little bit worse for the wear. It's got a couple dents in it, but it still works great. And
so they're the best. They're the best. The ones with dents.
It's
used. I like it.
It's made out of aluminum also.
Yes, aluminum.
Aluminium. I translated.
Right. So thank you. And I put them out a lot of different places because they're like a day exposure. So sometimes the hardest part is getting them in before the next. I'll put them out at night sometimes, and then wait for the next day to process, and then harvest them at the end and go from there.
Do you have your puck nearby, Brian?
I don't actually have it nearby. It's upstairs.
How do you attach the puck? Oh, here, Sam's got it. Show us. Tell us what you got there, Sam.
Okay, I've got this is our new packaging, the world's simplest camera. It's got the puck on the front and a few example images, and also text, etc., on the back, etc. And inside this is the puck, all the additional accessories. One of the first ways we showed how to put these up was.
That's what my question was. How are they attached?
Yeah, like this. So you tie that to a lamppost or something, you could put it up. But we've also had lots of other ways, because we realized this was like one of the main, the core principles of how this would work, how you would attach it to things. And another one we did, we created stands. So you could put stand on your windowsill and leave it facing outside your window still. And
I use painter's tape. So that's usually my go-to, because you can wrap it around a tree, and because obviously you have to have a really large zip tie to get around anything bigger than a lamppost, and I have some really large zip ties for that purpose, etc. But I often use painter's tape, so I can, and you can adjust the angle pretty easily if you want to that way. So I have a little kit, like a little dot bag almost, and I've got blanks, I call them, and they're just the photography paper that's that's light sensitive paper that's ready to go. I've got the puck in there. I've got the bands and the stands. But I also have a roll or two of painter's tape.
Oh, so painter's tape, because it's a short period of time, it won't wear out that fast.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that would work. But let me show you something we're particularly proud of with this box, and I'll have to show you and perhaps describe it. So inside it, we've got this fancy brown cardboard box, and this came after the initial release of the puck. Someone said to me, because the initial puck was boxed and housed in a very, very beautiful, like a retail box. It was like opening an Apple product or something up. It was very, very beautiful. And someone said, look, I'd like to buy another puck, but I feel like the packaging is a bit of a waste because I just want the puck. Can you have like a downsized version or something like this? So this is why we came up with this. And I'm quite proud of it. So it's got the puck cut out stenciled on the front.
Laser cut on there.
If we open it up, we find the puck there. But what I love about this box is you see this internal insert that's here. This tears out, and you'll see the instruction up here. It turns into a stand. So you can use this as a windowsill stand if you don't have a garden, etc. at home. You just live in a flat, perhaps, or an apartment, and you just have a window that faces in a southerly direction. So we're very proud of this little box.
Who engineered that? That's pretty clever. Like, you've essentially turned in recyclable cardboard packaging into
so it gets
function.
A second use. Yeah, so it does get a second use. So this tears out, and it gives the instructions about how to fold it and turn it into this thing. So this can pop in, and you can use it internally.
Is that the little seal on the side there? Is that what that other piece was?
This thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the band.
Okay.
They're out the outside, which I've got one just here. So it says
those are printed too. Yeah.
Yeah. So internally, there's a groove, and that groove goes around the.
This one says "Science experiment, do not touch" as well, Dale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's a couple things I needed to talk about. The zip ties that say "Science experiment, do not touch." I think I saw a picture, and Brian had one. A red zip tie stamped with the "Science experiment, do not touch." First of all, just sell those zip ties. Because those, I was like, I want a bag of those. Look at that. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we've got lots of different color ones here. So,
okay, that's the best part. That's the hardest thing to do is when you remove the installation is to cut that, because I'm like, oh, that's just, I love this.
All science teachers need those. That needs to, like, I know physics teachers at the physics share session I go to that would fight for those, which is
let me tell you, Dale, they're not cheap.
Yeah, that was going to lead to my next question. I can visualize the soda can. I bet I could find a supplier of, silver drink cans, and kind of get my way to the photographic paper. But there's a lot of new going on from the can to the solar puck. Can you tell us a little bit about the manufacturing
there is
process? Because you went from something that I think we could piece together to a brand new product.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I alluded to earlier on when, I put some money aside and a week aside, thinking I'll be able to come up with the product. And then realizing there's so much IP that I have to work with. There's so many solutions that I need to solve. So, for example, the first major hurdle I had to get to, look, beyond the idea of the branding, etc., is how do we get the lid on top? Like that is a really difficult thing. That back then there weren't many home brewers.
Yes, I knew the answer right away because we're in Wisconsin, which is like a micro brewing explosion place. So
this has happened very recently, actually.
Yes.
So if you wanted to put the lid on top of one of these, you need a machine that would do 6,000 an hour or something, far more than I'd need. I need to do, one every 20 seconds or something like that, as we're building and going along. And I actually, I found a solution via a survivalist person who thought the end of the world was coming and they canned their own goods, etc. And they were able to provide me with something like this. I paid over the odds for it. But it worked, and we're still using it now, actually. It's still in the workshop and being used. And, that's one of these things, a solution that we had to overcome because we needed a lid that was sealed and it would stay on top. Deciding, how we'd have the black tab that's over the Solarcan, that black tab that you see that covers the pinhole.
Yeah.
That's a real difficult thing to decide and how to make that. So I had to make stickers that would go outside the Solarcan to give it the branding, etc., but also cut out this black tab so it could come off. And how we would get these stickers onto the Solarcan and how we would keep the black tabs off so we can apply them after the holes have been drilled. Drilling the holes is difficult. You think, it's just pop a pin in it, but not when you're doing the sort of volumes we're doing and the quality that you want to do, just learning how to drill a hole and do it effectively and making sure it's the right size is something else as well on top. So you have...
These are all engineering challenges.
I was just going to say, this is like we're reading the principles of engineering here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do enjoy how everything's very, very different and you never really know what you get, but you still want some element of consistency that goes through each product. So you have some sort of idea what you're getting. So rather than just banging a hole into each one and just hoping for the best, we've tested all these and making sure it's smooth on the inside so there's no deburring. How are you going to get a tool down there halfway down, etc. All these developments, and there's probably many, many more that take me time to think of.
Well, even shipping overseas, you have to accommodate that because of the difference in pressure as you airmail it.
This is a very, very good point, Dan. So,
yes,
I didn't even think of that, but yes.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a story. So it was a disaster story. So the first sale, 2,000 Solarcan sold. That was on the first Kickstarter. It was mind-blowing. But half of these, maybe more than half, were overseas. And we shipped them all around the world, and it was all fantastic. But I kept getting emails saying, my Solarcan is crushed. And, that's disaster. What do you mean it's crushed? And they'd send me a picture of the tube, the shipping tube, perfect. Open up, Solarcan is crushed. And I'm like, what on earth is going on? I mean, it's so obvious now in hindsight. But at the time, is it because it's being rattled around? What is going on? And I eventually had to test it myself, and I took 2 Solarcan on a flight from here to Paris and
had to test it. This is company business, people.
Just a test. And the one that had the black tab on compressed. And the one without the black tab on stayed absolutely fine. And, it's really, really obvious in hindsight, but it was a head scratcher at the time to understand that they're actually, when they're experiencing different air pressure, which is typically in the cargo of a plane, or when they get incredibly, incredibly cold. I remember one day I was walking along in the street at night with a Solarcan in the town of Hoyk in the Scottish borders where I am, and suddenly it just crushed because it was so cold, and I just watched it happen in my hand. So you'd be able to do it in your freezer.
Well, if you've ever taken a water bottle on a plane, that's my favorite little science experiment at the beginning and the end.
So you see
pressure difference.
And then crushes, you come back down to earth, etc.
So what do you do? You move the tab now?
We have an imperfect solution, which is that the tab isn't attached onto the Solarcan for ones that ship abroad, but instead a white instruction sheet of paper is over the tab, just explaining why. So there's a nice little science explainer on there. Yeah. To avoid depressurization, we happen to apply the black tab. You can apply it now as long as you're away from sunlight. However, which you'd see, if you had an international Solarcan
being done. How big is your team, I guess?
Well, at the moment, it's just me and Gemma. So we do all the work.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So there are other people on the team. So I have an accountant. I brought other people in to help, additional outsourcing, etc. I've had lots of people integrate and build. So we call the building of the Solarcan or part of the integration. Over the years, there's been lots of different people. But Gemma, I brought on full time a couple of years ago now, and she's now in charge of the workshop. So if she can just get everything built, everything ready, and then do the shipping, I can help move the business forward with developments and changes, etc., and that sort of thing. But at times we've had 5 people working. You may know of Vsauce on YouTube.
Yeah. Vsauce.
Michael Vsauce. Out of the blue, he bought 10,000. It was really out of the blue. So that was a real busy couple of months. That was for their Curiosity box.
Sure.
Yeah. So that was a very, very busy time period where we had to, I was going from a few hundred a month to suddenly 10,000 had to be built a month. So that's a very quick learning process, that sort of thing, like manufacturing, etc., which I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sam, before we let you go, this has been a hobby of mine. I'm still a science teacher at heart, and I still like, I like doing some of these things just for fun. Have you seen them used in schools? And I know I know you have an option to buy a package of pucks for like a classroom set, but have you seen them being used, and how have they been used in schools?
Yeah, well, when we first started, we had a workshop sort of lesson where I'd locally, at least, take in lots of equipment and I'd get the children there at school, children or students, any age really, where they build their own solar can. Gives them some agency. They've created a camera, then they take it away and they learn something. So this has been, I've done this on several different occasions. I've done it with a class of art students. I've done it with a class of science students. I've done it with a class of primary school students, which would be, under 11 years of age. And each one of them are gaining something in their curriculum, or many things in some instances, that they could learn from, because you can't really pigeonhole this into one place. You immediately think it's photography, but some people think it's astronomy. Some people would say, no, this is physics. And some people would say, no, this is art. So it coalesces into all these different things. And it is a genuine, perfect STEM product where you can do all these different things, even design, of course. You can go back to the very origins of what Solarcan is and how the product is designed. So it can go into any different one of these stages. But teachers do enjoy it because it ticks part of their curriculum. The children get to do something new. It's inexpensive. And they get to create something which is really mind-bending for them, for those curious little squishy minds out there. And I enjoy that too. I've actually got a solar can up at a school about 10 miles down the road, which you just reminded me I need to go and collect right now, so I can go back in there at the start of term, which is next week, and show them the image that they've installed and they've created, so we can have fun doing that. So it's a perfect educational tool, really is. I actually made this box that is for education. So this was for education. The puck one was. I felt it. I love the solar can, but I feel the puck is the one that people need to use for education for lots of different reasons. But it's a lovely product.
Well, you could use them in concert, because I could see the students being very involved with the puck, but then you have that solar can out because it's more long term. So you can kind of come back and revisit before the school year is over.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it just depends on the department's budget. We do get classes like purchasing a whole pack of 50, say, solar can for a year or something, a year group. And they are very inexpensive in that regard. So it's not like buying 50 cameras for a student, even though they are. Whereas it's very inexpensive, and there's a great learning benefit that they all get out of it as well.
Yeah. The images that, Sam, what have you seen with the images? Obviously, we talked about, you see them shared on social media and things like that and sent to you. But have you seen anything creatively done with the images themselves afterwards? Like, I myself think the solar puck, it reminds me of the buttons, like a campaign button that you could wear on your a shirt or something like that would be turned into. Have you seen anything done with the images?
They've been used as book covers. They've been used as album art.
Oh, yeah, that does totally look like album art.
Yeah, those sort of things. So there was something nice. Someone
magnets.
I've switched my profile banners in Twitter and in Facebook to use.
Yeah, there's that.
It's a nice long image for that.
I'm thinking you can make refrigerator magnets.
If you could, yeah. Some have been used to turn into quilts. I believe someone on Twitter posted an image of a couple of quilts they made from a solar can image. You can use them scientifically as well. Astronomers, particularly astronomers, tend to annotate the whole image to say Like, this is where there was no sun. This was that storm, or this is the winter solstice. This is the summer solstice. Look at where the trees dropped off, the leaves dropped off the trees, etc. So it's nice to see it annotated scientifically, in addition to all these creative endeavors. I believe there was one on a wedding invite.
Neat.
Lovely guy in Canada. Gosh, you put me on the spot here now. My wife took one of my favorite Solarcan images and they turned it into I can't think of what it's called, but you turn a photograph into something that's 3D. So it raised edges, etc., so you can feel it as well. Because we had someone who was blind, 100% blind, using a Solarcan, and they were getting a result, and they were able to feel the result.
I wonder, they have those litho panes,
maybe,
where the sun shines through, so you can see the image through it. But then, yes, you could feel it too.
Yes, yeah.
Brian, you could do that.
I just got another idea. Yeah.
Yeah, you do it with a 3D printer, so Beverly did a few of these.
Sure. And I will remind teachers that if you do get the pucks, for instance, they are reusable, and you can buy new blanks basically for them to refill. So that would be if you got the pucks and got a classroom set, you can easily get more paper and go for the next year.
Absolutely, yeah. They come with paper. They come with 9 exposures inside each box. It comes with the instruction manual. It comes with a poster with lots of different examples, images.
I buy my refills by the 52 now. I'm up at that level.
You know why it's 52, Brian?
Why is it
52? Weeks.
There's 52 weeks in a year.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. See, look at all that engineering, just even in the numbers.
Yeah, it's a real thing. But actually, yes, someone, I think probably the most amazing image that I saw at Solarcan Day at the end of last year, which is when the sun hit its lowest point, was someone had done a time lapse using the puck. So they replaced the photographic paper, but left the puck in the same place every week. So you saw the sun rising and dropping through in a sort of a stop motion.
That's
video.
Cool. Oh, I'd like to see that.
They use 30 or 40 exposures to do this. So you'll be able to find that on Instagram and our Twitter as well.
I think you could make a calendar, right?
A calendar would absolutely work. Yeah.
Yes, Brian, get on that.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sam. This has been a treat. Obviously, this has been a little hobby of mine in the last couple of years, and I hope for much longer. The hardest part is the patience, but I also think that's the reward as well. The Solarcans, when they're installed, you just gotta, all right, now we'll have to wait and see. And months later, you come back, and I love seeing those images. The pucks get the better, the instant gratification there, at least of a day.
There's more bang for your puck.
There you go, Dale. But it's been fun, and I would encourage any science, anyone who has got like a little. This is just a fun hobby to do, and especially during the summer when I have a lot of time, I like to find places to install them. And I've worked with schools, with universities around the area, and they're usually pretty good about finding a collaboration or kind of cooperation with that.
Yeah, he's got one tied to the main building in our town right now, main university building.
Oh, nice. Well, we do stock all over the world, but we also ship worldwide, and shipping prices are exceptionally inexpensive. They are exceptional. So don't think just because we're in the UK, it's going to cost an arm and a leg to ship. It's very, very inexpensive. Brian will vouch for this.
Absolutely. And, just takes a little bit longer than Amazon Prime. That's all.
Yeah, maybe a week longer than Amazon Prime. And I am always contactable via email, info@solarcan.co.uk, or Instagram or Twitter. Just ping me a message, and we do like to chat to the community.
That's awesome. This has been great. I feel like I learned more about Brian now, because this was a little hobby he did on the side. And he's always been into cameras and photography and things like that. And I kind of only very, very high view knew what he was doing. And now I feel closer to you, Brian.
It's only taken 20 years, Dale. Thank you so much for your time, Sam. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks again, Sam. This is awesome.
Thanks for listening to our show. If you'd like to know more about this episode or any of our previous episodes, visit laboutloud.com. Lab Out Loud is produced by me, Dale Basler, and my co-host, Brian Bartell. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for Lab Out Loud, visit laboutloud.com/contacts. Thanks again.